Welcome to the Real Estate Brief. I'm Adam, and today we're going to be cutting through a lot of the noise. We're going to get to the truth that we find in the real estate headlines, right? We're going to look at the data. We're going to analyze what that is. I'm going to give you some of my observations and where I believe that you can absolutely find opportunity in every news cycle. So if you're ready to gain your real estate edge, let's dive into our very first story. And this very first story we're going to be talking about is why real estate team leaders fail to develop their agents. And this is an article by RIS Media. And RIS Media breaks down why high-performing agents often do, and they typically, the data backs this up, they will typically crash as leaders of teams. The majority of them do. Now, don't let that necessarily scare you. This is not about, don't do, teams or don't be a leader of other agents. That's not the whole topic we're going to be talking about here. But the challenge, though, is shifting from a salesperson to a business owner requires a certain change in the way you do things, right? It's not the same. A salesperson is going out and selling selling a product. They're really good at that. And running a business and being a business owner and managing people in a business is a very different way of operating than just being a salesperson. So there's a transitional time. So if you're thinking about becoming a team leader or thinking about having other agents on your team, those type of ideas, there are certain things you have to shift your mind to be able to navigate. So this article is going to be breaking that down, right? It's going to be talking about this. And so we're going to read through this. I'll give you some of my action insights, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my observation on what teams are and how they actually, to be honest, how they can work where it's not so difficult, where you have to be a straight up business owner, but have a little bit of leniency inside of there, okay? So let's go ahead and get in this article real quick. Take a swig of water. Or water. What am I saying? Water. Coffee. It's totally coffee. All right. So here it is. Why real estate team leaders fail to develop their agents. And it says by investing in mentorship, fostering a positive work environment, and providing ongoing education, leaders can build a high-performing team that succeeds. Okay. So there's options here. So let's get into this. It begins to quote out the very, very opening segment here. It says, in the highly competitive world of real estate, team leaders play a crucial role in guiding and developing their agents. A well-trained, motivated team can lead to increased sales, better client relationships, and overall business success. However, many real estate team leaders fail to properly develop their agents, resulting in stagnant growth, high turnover, and underperformance. Here are some key reasons why this happens. Now, let me just say this is by... commentary by the Jason Mitchell Group. Reading time is roughly 3 minutes. And this is in their industry news category on rismedia.com. Okay. So you do have to be a member. You have to pay to be a member of this source, but I encourage it, guys. RIS Media and Inman News are all about real estate and real estate agents. It's a great resource for us to have access to something specific to our industry. So I'm subscribed to both of them. I encourage you to do so. I am not an affiliate of them. I don't make a dime for recommending them. I just think it's a good news source. So just keep that in mind. All right. Let's go ahead here. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a conclusion. So we got 7 points that this article makes in regards to being a team leader and what that actually looks like. Now, some of these kind of come across as more of like a negative position, but it's food for thought. It's something we need to think through and kind of veg out a little bit. Okay. All right. So one of the main reasons why real estate team leaders fail to develop their agents, it says lack of leadership and coaching skills. Many real estate team leaders are successful agents themselves, but lack the leadership and coaching skills needed to develop others. Selling homes and leading a team require 2 different skill sets. While top performing agents may excel in sales, they often struggle with teaching, mentoring, and motivating others. Now, this is so true. You might be an agent out there and you are having massive success in making sales. You're really good at articulating your value proposition to a seller. You're really well scripted in how to handle buyers and all their objections. And you're great at representing properties well. You're even good at probably even marketing properties, right? Most of all those things that you do are intrinsic just for you. They're not focused on managing multiple people. So you have to begin to frame your mind that you became successful in real estate because you were doing the things that benefited you ultimately. Your training, your development, the courses you took, all of that was to help you build your business for you. All right. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is actually where you begin. That is How you begin as a real estate agent is you have to develop yourself. You have to develop skills. You have to get better at representing buyers and sellers and all different transactions. You got to understand law more. There are a lot of intricate little details that you as a person, as a salesperson, a real estate agent, have to develop those skills to get to where you are as a team leader, right? Someone that has done their work, someone has put in the time, has had a lot of sales. That is part of it. The problem, though, comes in is you've gotten to your point now where you've built this large group of listings and sellers, and you maybe even got a referral business going on. And so then what ends up happening is you start dropping balls in certain places. Certain things start falling through the cracks. Your value proposition begins to, go off the course just a little bit, and detour over into where it's not a consistent delivery of your services, right? So in other words, it's not way you would like it to be, but you just don't have enough time to manage all that you have right now. So you come across this crossroad. And at that point is when most agents begin to think about, man, do I need to hire a team member? And there's many different versions of what that might look like. You might want to bring on a buyer's agent, someone that works with you that handles all of your buyers. You still then take on the sellers. Sometimes you'll bring in a showing agent where all they do is handle your showings, but you still represent the buyers and sellers. Or you bring on an administrative assistant, someone that handles all the clerical work. You hire a TC, right? There's all these different intricate details that you bring into your group or your team to help you manage your business so you can keep growing that business. But the moment you are a team leader, the moment you get to that point and you bring somebody in underneath your wing, you are now overseeing somebody else. You are now managing and leading somebody else. And all the team leaders out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's hard sometimes to get that person that you've hired in that position to think and operate the way you would do, to be your representative, right? They do the way you want things done to keep that value proposition up high. So you're delivering that consistent service, right? This is the game. So you hire somebody, you tell them, here's the checklist or whatever, and you tell them to go out and start doing what they need to do to represent you, right? And then what happens? They end up not doing it the way you wanted it done, right? This is what happens. Then you are now in a position where now you are now managing that person, coaching that person, leading that person, and directing that person to do what you want them to do, like as if they were you, right? So that's a skill set that has to be developed. So just like you developed your skill set to become a good, successful agent that led you to believing you wanted to be a team leader, that's the skill set now has to switch to being a good leader as far as teaching, mentoring, and motivating others. It's a different task that also takes more time. All right. So that's one of them. Let's go into the number 2 is poor communication. All right. Poor communication. It says effective communication is essential for team development. Some leaders fail to provide clear expectations, constructive feedback, or regular check-ins. This leaves agents feeling directionless and unsupported. Inconsistent or vague communication can lead to confusion, low morale, and decreased productivity. Successful leaders ensure that agents receive regular feedback, goal-setting sessions, and open lines of communication for questions and concern. So here's the thing, it's like it's a balancing act, right? You know you need to be out front and center still. It's your brand and you built this business. But at the same time, you brought somebody else on and your whole thought is, I'll bring somebody on and they're just going to run with it. I'm going to give them some tasks. I'm going to give them some to-do lists and they're just going to do it the way I wanted them to do it, right? But then you fail to communicate with them consistently and observing how they're engaging with people and what they're doing and directing them and supporting them in that endeavor and giving them constructive feedback on what they're doing, right? This is that balancing act. These are skills again. And look, I've been doing this for a long time. And as much of the options of communication that we have in this industry, and man, we have a lot now. Right? We can text, email, we can send voice messages, we can do video. We've got social media we can communicate through direct messages. We have technology that does drip campaigns, all of these things, but yet somehow we still fail at the communication category. Somehow we miss communications. And we also don't communicate enough with those that really need to hear from us more, right? And if you are a team leader and you're taking that position, you've got people underneath you. The biggest part that causes you to fail is you're not setting clear expectations for those under you that you are leading. And then they feel unsupported. Then they don't have as much of a desire to do what you want to do. The morale begins to go down, right? So you have to figure out systems and processes to communicate very well, okay? So that's another one of the failing things. Number 3, lack of training and mentorship programs. A major reason why team leaders fail to develop their agents is the absence of a structured training and mentorship programs. Many new or struggling agents need hands-on guidance to improve their skills in prospecting, negotiation, and closing deals. So this is where, if you're going to take a position of a team leader, you got to understand you are operating more like a miniature little brokerage inside of a brokerage model, right? So you're affiliated with a brokerage. They have all kinds of tools and resources. So are you using those tools and resources yourself? And then now you can train your staff to then work within those tools to help alleviate you of some of the responsibility of training? Does your brokerage not provide those type of things? Therefore, you have to provide all those things, right? This is that point of tension back and forth that you have got to make sure that those underneath you are being trained, right? They're being mentored. So by taking on people underneath you requires you to shift more into the business owner category, because now you're leading people and you're training them and elevating them up to your standards. And that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. So this is where you have to begin to assess, am I really ready for a team? Is this where I want to go with this? Let me zoom in. I've noticed it's a little tight. There we go. Oh, that's much better. But you guys can see that much better. All right. Focus on short-term results over long-term development. Some real estate leaders prioritize immediate sales and transactions over long-term agent development. They may expect agents to start producing results right away without giving them the necessary tools or time to improve. Look, this is the way we operate inside of our brokerage here. In my role here is we bring on new agents all the time. I don't put undue pressure on a new agent to immediately start making sales. It's not correct for me to do so. They have too much lack in skill and development to be able to expect that kind of return, right? I know as a brokerage, when I bring on a new agent or any agent, there is a process of training them, mentoring them, and guiding them before they start producing. And I know my outgo and the amount of time and resources that new hire is going to take is going to be much, much higher at the beginning. And then over time, if my systems and processes are in place correctly, that time goes down and they begin to succeed, right? But I don't expect short-term goals. I play the long game. So if you really want to move into building a team and you want to have that kind of structure inside of a brokerage, you got to understand that it's going to take time. It's going to take more sacrifice. It's not just I'm going to hire somebody and then all of a sudden I'm freed up to be able to do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it. It just doesn't work that way. We're dealing with people that have their own autonomy, that have their own desires and dreams, and sometimes they don't necessarily align with what you want. And that's a difficult thing to kind of reconcile when you're trying to get somebody to do the things you need them to do to help you, right? But it takes time. You got to play the long game. The long game. It takes time. Failure to adapt to market changes. It says the real estate industry is constantly evolving and successful agents need to stay updated on new trends, technologies, and marketing strategies. That's what I'm trying to do here, FYI. That's what this stream's for. Team leaders who fail to educate their agents about industry changes, such as a digital marketing, social media strategies, and new CRM systems, have them at a disadvantage. Leaders should actively provide training on emerging tools and techniques to keep their teams competitive. This is where you can kind of see how all these things are compounding. When you decide to be a team leader, why the majority of them fail is because they don't think like a broker. They don't think like a business owner. They're not setting up the systems and processes that they need to be able to facilitate the growth. What they end up doing is thinking, hey, I'm going to bring somebody on to help me. But then they end up having more time managing people than they actually need to be able to do sales. So there's a pendulum there. I need to train, but I need to keep selling. I need to equip, and I need to keep, I need to communicate. I need to train. I need to draw up. All these type of things are happening, and I'm trying to still maintain my sales, right? So you have to assess all these things. And the next point, though, is how do you know what to be training them on if you don't have time and you don't set aside time to stay current in what is going on in your industry? I mean, if you follow this live stream at all and you check this out on a daily basis, you will see how fast real estate news changes. I mean, just a couple of days ago, maybe it was yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about a bipartisan bill, right? That just passed. Did I say this is? I said Tuesday at the very beginning of this stream. This is Wednesday, by the way. This is not Tuesday. Oh gosh, yesterday was crazy. But anyway, it was Mondays. In Monday's live stream, Monday's live stream was where I talked about a bipartisan bill that just passed the House. It's got to go to the Senate to still get final approval, but it has major changes coming to the housing industry and affordability. Those are things you got to stay on current with, because you've got to be adapting your marketing strategies and your training and stuff for the staff that you're representing to be able to navigate new changes. So you're making a decision that you're going to be operating as a business owner more than a salesperson when you start adding people to your team, right? And if you don't do that, that's why they will fail. That's why they will fail. All right. Lack of accountability and motivation. Some leaders fail to hold their agents accountable for performance and progress. Without clear goals, tracking systems, or performance reviews, agents may become complacent. A strong leader sets expectations, regularly evaluates progress, and provides motivation to keep agents engaged. Incentives, recognition, and career development opportunities. Again, you're thinking like a business owner here, right? Think about what your brokerage does for you, all right? How it motivates you. Does it do awards? Does it do recognition? Does it talk about events? Does it bring you together and talk about goal setting? Does it do online training? Does it do in-office meetings? Does it do all those type of things? Even though you are part of a brokerage and your team is part of that brokerage, the reality is those team members are looking to you as their authority to some degree. So they are expecting that same kind of experience, right? So when you go down this road, just realize that that is what you're creating. You're creating a mini brokerage inside of a brokerage. You have to think as a business owner. Toxic work environment, number 7, this is the final one. A negative or high pressure work culture can hinder agent development. If a leader creates a stressful, unsupportive, or overly competitive environment, agents may struggle to thrive. Successful leaders foster a culture of collaboration, support, and encouragement to help their agents reach their full potential. Look, there is a lot of truth in this. The same motivation, and this is not a knock, the same motivation that drove you to be the top tier agent in your brokerage and maybe even in your region, in your state, can also come across as toxic to somebody that's wanting support and help. Sometimes your drive for success negates their need for support and morale. So I'm not saying you tamper your intensity into sales, but you do need to tamper that intensity when you're dealing with the people that you're leading, right? They want to feel like they're part of something and coming alongside you and supporting you. So you have to coach and train them in that way, right? It's not about domineering them. It's about leading them, right? And that's a difficult thing to do. So now it goes on to say, in conclusion, real estate team leaders who fail to develop their agents often struggle with leadership skills, communication, training programs, and long-term vision. By investing in mentorship, fostering a positive work environment, and providing ongoing education, leaders can build a high-performing team that succeeds in the ever-changing real estate industry. All right, so let me just stop for just 1 second. Now, we talked about all of the negatives and the fail rate and what causes failure in teams, right? And I told you at the very beginning, I was going to give you my opinions on kind of what I think about what I think about teams. I think it's been hyped up so much that to be successful, you need to build a real estate team. Okay. I'm not saying it's not necessarily a wrong strategy, but it might be a little bit of a misguided strategy. I think there's a way to foster collaboration inside of a brokerage without having to have a team lead. And let's just do a scenario here. You are a salesperson that has high sales in your market and you're succeeding. You're making a lot of money, but you're getting busy. All right. You're getting so busy, you're starting to drop those balls and you need help. Well, if you're in a brokerage with other agents, you have help on the side, ready and willing. You have some middle tier agents that are very good agents. They just don't have the same kind of drive that you have, or they haven't submitted as long and as much time to the real estate industry, that will be more than willing to come alongside you and help. Instead of trying to structure a business inside of a business, talk to your broker and your managers and talk through the idea about helping find you more help. Maybe you read all these type of things and all these fail rates. You're like, man, I don't really want to have to try to figure out how to juggle managing people and trying to maintain my sales. It is a difficult thing to do. Maybe you read these type of things and you got motivated to say, I want to do this, right? Great, fine, go for it. But I think there's a little bit of an easier point of entry. Why not, if you're busy, go talk to some of the agents in your office and say, look, I'm busy, I need help. You structure an arrangement that if you call upon them to help you with a client or buyer or seller, you will pay XYZ. Okay. They still have autonomy to do what they need to do. You can still market yourselves as a team, so you can still run with that idea, but the brokerage is still the one supporting the other agent as far as training them, mentoring them, and getting them equipped. The burden is still on that brokerage to equip that agent. You just have an agreed upon arrangement on as far as how they will be compensated when you give them business. It's still your client. You still retain that client as your client. They can't take that client. They can't market that client. You can even have an agreement that talks about referrals given by that client. You can structure this in a way where it's not so defined. It's not that I'm the team leader and these are my people and they can do nothing outside of me. You could be a little more fluid inside of that team structure, right? And you can still develop them and help that agent, but they can also still lean into the brokerage, and then the brokerage can absorb a lot of the responsibilities to train and equip them. So there's different ways to structure this, right? And then the other idea is look at more on the administrative side of things, right? Look at the administrative of like the transaction coordination side. If you're busy, boggled down in all the paperwork and all the communication trying to get something to closing, investigate and research a transaction coordinator, not necessarily an agent, somebody that can handle the day-to-day operations of facilitating your listings and your closing paperwork and the communications between all parties. That will free you up a lot of time to be able to still market yourself without having to manage a specific person. It doesn't mean you have to hire a TC to work on your team. It means you can find a service, maybe inside of your brokerage or elsewhere, that can take that burden off. Now, you will need to run through your broker and find out and make sure that they're okay with doing it this way. But there is a lot of services out there that can work very nicely and complement you in your business without you having to then operate with all the stuff we just talked about, right? Same thing with like real estate photography and closing agents and all these other little fields, right? They can come alongside you and be a part of your team, but not require you to have to manage them. So shift your mindset. I know there's been a lot of hype about teams and I'm going to be a team leader and I'm going to add all these agents underneath me. And the reality though is a lot of them fail. A lot of those team leads fail because they think they're freeing up time. And what they end up finding out is they have more people underneath them that just takes up more time, right? Now, in summary, I will say, look, let's just say that you want to go down the route of team leader, the traditional term, right? Understand that your top tier, you as a salesperson is in the top tier skill level, right? It does not automatically translate to leadership and coaching abilities, okay? It doesn't translate. Those are two very distinct, different disciplines. They both had to be trained. You don't just automatically. Now, some people have that natural ability, okay? That does happen. But a lot of your top tier selling agents typically have great ability to sell, but they lack the leadership and coaching that they need to be able to lead. And so if you're wanting to go down that route, then you need to pour into your leadership abilities and how you can lead and develop those disciplines, okay? So that is a big pitfall, right? Now, and also many leaders prioritize like the immediate commission over long-term agent growth. So if you do go this route, we talked about this in this article as well. If you go this route, understand that you're playing the long-term growth game here. It's not going to be a quick one. And if you don't understand that, that's where you'll end up in burnout and turnover and that kind of stuff. And agents will be leaving your team and everything else. And then also understand that when you go this route as well, you got to have structure, right? You can't be absent from your mentorship. You can't be absent from your accountability and your systems. That will leave your team feeling complete directionless, right? They require you to give them those systems and that structure to help them succeed. So you got to develop those things before you ever go into this to increase the likelihood of your success, right? So that is the key to building a team. You've got to have those type of things in line. Now, what I would say is if you are currently leading a team, what I would do to increase the ability of me being able to lead effectively, even if you're in more of what I just talked about, your hybrid level, where you might have agreements in your office to have certain agents work with you under a case-by-case basis, or if you're a full-fledged team leader and you have direct supervision over some agents. Here's some action items I would encourage you to do with those agents. I would schedule weekly like skill up or meetings and assessment for mentorship and skill development with them. And I mean weekly. If your agents are underneath you or that you are working with are lacking in some mentorship and some skills, you need to have every single week a time, maybe an hour or two, where you're face-to-face with them, walking through and teaching them and mentoring them on how you do what you do, right? It is not a once a month type of thing. This is an ongoing thing. I would also, if you're wanting to bring anybody onto your team, I would go back and look at your most successful agent on your team and look at what you did to get them onboarded. And then I would begin to develop an onboarding roadmap for them to help them get up and running quickly. That helps with the agent retention. They get the idea of what the team is trying to do as a whole, as a collective. They know what their expectations are, right? And that onboarding roadmap gives you a foundation to go back to on those skill up sessions to then be able to elevate them up, right? And get them up to where that you need them to be, right? And then I would absolutely lean heavily into a servant leader mindset. Relationship building first, feedback loops, talking and communicating and everything back and forth, serving them and helping them get up and running and quickly. Realizing it's going to take you longer time, and realizing also that you're going to be late at night sometimes, early mornings, talking to your agents until they feel fully equipped to do what you do, right? It's a sacrifice. It's not a turnkey option. It takes time. And the next thing I would say is you're switching from player to coach, okay? If you want to scale a business and you want to operate as an owner, you're not so much the player anymore. You're the coach. You're the leader. You're now coaching, mentoring, and guiding those underneath you to be successful. And if they're successful, so will you be. But you have to be in the trenches with them. You got to get there to get them up to that level, right? So that's what I would say about that. There you go. All right, very good. All right, we're going to move on to article number 2 now. And this kind of piggybacks kind of off of this one just a little bit. This one here is by Inman News. And Inman is going to be exploring, and more specifically, Emily Askin. Emily Askin is going to be exploring why your home base, in other words, your brokerage, where you work and where you put your license, might be your biggest ceiling or your largest advantage. Okay, so a ceiling being I can only go as far with this brokerage, and then the advantage being as far as I can go. And here's where a lot of agents fall into this trap. The biggest trap they fall into is they only think through what the split in their commission is, right? They think that the brokerage they're affiliated with, the main factor that keeps them at that point is their split, how much commission they make. And that's typically, I used to do recruiting all of the time. The most common question would always, it was just everybody wanted to constantly get right back to the split. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. It does matter. But it's more about the support and the brand's long-term vision that's going to grow your business. Because when you start talking about commission, that's based on percentages of sales. One brokerage could have an amazing split, but do nothing to help you actually close deals. The other one could have an average split or a decent split, but help you close more deals. And so when you start talking about percentages of sales, well, more deals means more money regardless of the split. So you gotta weigh more than just a split. The conversation is not just that, okay? So in this article, the reason why I'm highlighting this is to get you guys thinking about your brokerage, as well as how to analyze and use and take advantage of the brokerages that you are at, right? The value shift. There is a value shift in a shifting market, right? Agents in the past were looking for high splits instead of actual tools, resources, operational support. That is not necessarily what wins the day in a real estate market shift. If I was to go back and I was to look at the good years when inflation was going through the roof and all you had to do is sit in an office and write contracts up, I've been through 2 markets like that, actually 3 markets like that. That skilled, okay, maybe you can make the arguments maybe more about the split. I still would say it's not, but okay, I'll give you a little bit of a buy there. But when the market shifts, and it's not so much about just show up and write contracts, and you actually have to provide value, and you've got to be equipped with tools, resources, and support to be able to do those type of things. The brokerage model matters more than anything else, right? You also need to understand the brand's alignment and what the brand is about, your brokerage reputation, local market share, all of those things directly impact your ability to build trust with the high intent clients, the clients that are looking to buy and sell. Those are brand alignments. What about the networking effect, the quality of the agents around you, right? What about the team that you have around you? That dictates the speed of your professional growth and referral opportunities, right? All of these things correlate into the conversation about why brokerage choice matters more than most agents think. So let's jump into this article, that's what it's titled. All right. It says, a brokerage isn't a place, okay? Don't stop thinking of it as just this one building and I just hung my license there and I went to work. It's a system you join. Broker owner Emily Askin writes, it shapes your risk tolerance. When the risk gets greater, how tolerant is the brokerage I'm at, and how much navigating are they doing in response to what's going on in the market? Are they forward thinking? It shapes your habits, your professionalism, and your long-term sustainability. All right. It says this, real estate agents have more brokerage choices than ever before. There are so many out there. And she goes on to say, national brands, boutique independents, virtual models, and cloud platforms. And what do they all promise? If you go online right now and you just type in real estate brokerages to affiliate with and just look at Google and see what all kind of results they give. And then look at their recruiting pages and tell me if they don't offer what she's saying here. They all promise freedom, flexibility, and better splits. Every single one of them say the exact same thing, right? That's their position. All of them say that. With so many options available, brokerages can all start to look interchangeable. So this is something to lean into. Like, as agents, you could easily just do that Google search and look, and you'll see all the verbiage across all the different brokerages all say the exact same thing. They'll have some version of what freedom looks like in regards to their culture. Have full autonomy and freedom to do whatever you want, right? All of them say we have flexibility, we have great pay structures, better splits than everybody else. These are all those comments, right? So now we got to add discernment, wisdom, and logic to the whole concept when we're looking at brokerages and assessing them. It's not just about the split. It's not just about freedom or even flexibility. It's about way more than that, right? It says they are not. Most agents compare brokerages using, this is the key, using the easiest metrics available. Commission splits, caps, fees, and branding. That's so front and center. It's the easiest thing to ask questions about, okay? It's super simple. If I can answer those questions, I can make a decision if this is the right brokerage or not. And I've set I have done hundreds of recruiting appointments. I have done mergers and acquisitions, many of those. And most of the conversations come back to these questions. Most of them come right back to this. And I appreciate you need to know these things. You need to ask those questions for sure. But those numbers, and she goes on to say, those numbers are simple to line up and easy to sell, right? If you were to sit down in front of a recruiter, every recruiter is trained on addressing these topics right here. They're really good at it. Trust me. They can make their commission splits, their caps, their fees, and their branding sound just the best in the world. They're trained to do that. Remember, they're salespeople too. All right? They know that. What they don't capture is what actually matters when something goes wrong. And eventually something always does. We have got to frame our mind around what a brokerage is and what it isn't. Those are all relevant questions we should be asking. We need to know commission splits and fees and caps and branding. We got to know those things. But when it goes bad, when you get involved in a suit, when someone's coming after you and accusing you of something, how good is that brokerage at protecting you, helping you, representing you, and coming to your defense? How much support do you have around you when that kind of stuff happens? Is your brokerage actively communicating with counsel, legal counsel, to get answers for you, to protect you, right? These are all things that, let me tell you, if you are in this industry, and this is not meant to scare you, but if you are in this industry for any length of time, it is inevitable that at some point you will make a mistake and someone will accuse you of something, right? It's a high risk game. It's a big transaction that most people don't do, right? So there's a lot of risk. So at some point they're going to come for you. So a brokerage is more than just those things. It's how do they support you? What do they do to train you and equip you and keep you informed, right? Those are valuable things. Most agents compare brokerages using brokerages were once just a little more than a place to hang a license and conduct real estate transactions. That version of real estate no longer exists. It doesn't. Today, brokerages quietly function as compliance managers, educators, system builders, and risk buffers. A brokerage that understands these things right here, guys, that understands that their function as a brokerage is to help you be compliant. That's going to save you thousands of dollars in the long run. help you to be more efficient and professional with your client because you understand what compliance is better than the person down the street. They are educators. They're going to keep you informed, educating you, providing you with resources to stay equipped. They're going to have systems in place and help you implement those systems. And they're also going to be a shield for the risk that you're going out there and doing, right? As technology expanded, agent independence, regulation, and liability expanded alongside it. The brokerage didn't become optional. It became responsible. When that responsibility is handled well, its value is largely invisible. Invisible. So the point here too, and this is a good point, the brokerage didn't become optional, it became responsible. When that responsibility is handled well, its value is largely invisible. This is the part that it's very difficult as a recruiter to come in and articulate how the brokerage protects the agent against risk. So if you're out there and you're talking to a brokerage and you're thinking about leaving your brokerage, you need to get down to the nitty gritty about cases and how that brokerage has helped protect their agents, right? It's going to happen. And that is something that the real recruiter has a hard time articulating, right? That's where you want to talk to the other agents in those offices and say, hey, have you ever had an issue legally? And how did the brokerage respond to that? What did they do to protect you? Did you ever have another issue with another broker or another agent? Did that broker step up and protect you and speak on your behalf and come to your defense? Or do they stay silent and stick you out there up front and have you do it? Did they support you, right? These are questions you should be asking. Those are the ones that answer the question is, am I affiliating with a professional brokerage that understands what growth looks like, how to protect me as an agent when I make a mistake, right? Those are great questions. Great questions to be asking. Next one is how culture impacts brokerage choice. Oh, the word culture. Whew, boy. Culture is one of the most overused words in real estate. It's often, I'd say it's overused in life in general, guys. I mean, join my culture. We got a great culture, right? So funny. It's often reduced to events, office energy, or social media presence. All that outward facing stuff, okay? That's the culture, right? That version of culture is easy to market, but it's not the one that matters. You know, on this channel, I talk all the time about the me metrics. If I'm going to promote myself on social media, do I just put myself up there and talk about how great I am? Is brokerages doing that, right? Are they just saying, look at me, look how great we are? But are they actually have a culture of protection, risk assessment, education, navigating difficult situations, right? Because to me, if I was an agent looking at culture, right? Sure, I love office energy and I love excitement. I love media presence. I need all those things. I love events. But let me tell you, this is business, right? This is business. That hype stuff goes away and it's hard to maintain. And when that hype fades, you see what the foundation is built on. If you're talking to brokerages about where you want to affiliate or you're thinking about leaving or whatever, get down to what the foundation culture is of that brokerage. How do they support you, right? So what does she go on to say? She says, real culture shows up in how standards are enforced. You might not like it. You might not like that they enforce standards, right? I get it. People don't like authority. They want to rebel against it all the time. But you need it. We all need it. We need that accountability. She says, whether accountability is consistent, how leadership handles mistakes, and what behavior is quietly tolerated. Culture isn't what a brokerage says it values. It's what it is allowed to continue. So what is culture then? Is it all the flash? Is it all of the events? Is it all the social media presence? No, that's a sand foundation, right? Every brokerage out there can create that image, right? A few marketing dollars and a little bit of expense, I can create that culture. But the reality is the culture of my brokerage, I hope this is what my agents would say. I think if you asked them that, I think they would agree, is one of those things, is where we do all those things. We like to have fun. We like to get together. We love high energy and we like social media presence. We love events. We love partying like the best of them, right? Those are all great. But real culture shows up in the standards that we enforce. We hold our agents to an accountable standard of practice that we know is for their greater good. Even if we hit oppositions and sometimes we got to call certain things out. The agent that appreciates that is the agent that's going to be in it for the long haul, 30, 40 years, right? They're the ones going to make it. All right, a well-run brokerage often looks calm on the surface. Okay, a well-run brokerage often looks calm on the surface. Transactions move forward, support feels accessible, and systems appear smooth. All right, so a brokerage that you can look at and say, wow, they got everything together and the company's growing, new agents are coming on board, and transactions are moving forward. Doesn't mean there's not hiccups, but they're constantly innovating and moving that needle forward. They are constantly focused on support and pouring in, and your support feels accessible. I can pick up the phone and I can call them. You know, I tell all of my agents, call me. I'm here to support you and help you. It's what I want to do. It's what I exist for. It's what my job is. So it's accessible. Systems appear smooth. Sure, there's hiccups and stuff like that, but is that brokerage correcting those hiccups and moving forward, right? She goes on to say, this is the Swan Effect. Okay, it's the Swan Effect. Underneath all of that calm, however, is constant motion. Okay, so this is a little bit of insight into what I do, right? So contracts change, laws evolve, MLS rules update, technology breaks, consumer expectations shift. So with our own agent base and our own brokerage here, we have this kind of Swan Effect, right? Is we try to be the outward facing calm for the agents. I want transactions to move forward and smoothly. We try to pay attention to what's going on transactionally and make decisions that help and keep everything moving forward smoothly. We want multiple layers of support, not like one that calls like a hierarchy type structure. We want multiple brokers, multiple leaders, multiple mentors and coaches stepping up and saying, I'm here to help and support you, right? And it's accessible. We want systems that we put in place to be, appear smooth and works flawlessly, and realizing that when there's issues, we try to address them and fix them as fast as we possibly can. Realizing it's technology, but we have that. But here's the insight, guys. Like on my side, like every single day, I'm looking at reports from contracts that have changed and been submitted and what's coming. I'm looking at laws and what's evolving and reading fine print inside of legal jargon and bills and all these type of things that are passing. I go over MLS rules updates and look at it into depth and decipher what is the rules so I can help navigate that with my agents. I try to stay on point with technology and trends and what's going on there. And when technology breaks, we try to fix it, right? We also look at consumers. We have complaints coming in and calls coming in from clients that our agents are working with, and we're trying to help navigate that and trying to figure out where the ball was dropped. And these are those point attentions. Now, do we get it right every single time? No, we do not. But even though the outward facing of the brokerage has the transactions are moving forward, hopefully, and I pray the support feels accessible, systems appear smooth, even though they might have hiccups, the agents feel support that we can make those fixes and correct them as we go forward. But internally, there's all this constant noise that we've got to decipher and help navigate and stay on point with and those type of things. A brokerage that understands that process understands how to support agents. Now, and look, this is a little bit of a point of tension, but I'm going to give you guys the advice that I would recommend anybody. And this is not just for my own brokerage, but this is what I would recommend any agent. Given what I had just said about how this all works, don't you think it's difficult for a brokerage to manage all the agents while they're also listing and selling properties? We had a whole conversation about team leaders and all they have to do as a business owner, while at the same time maintaining that sales position. To be able to have a brokerage that feels smooth, that supports the agents, that is accessible, that has transactions moving forward without as many hiccups, that doesn't show an aggression towards their agents, even while all the chaos is going on, it requires time and support. So look for brokerages that don't have brokers that are competing with you. It's just the reality. I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack in the comments about that one, but it is what it is. As I break this article down, you can see the benefits of having something like that in place. I mean, if I was out there listing and selling properties, I could not be deciphering what is going on in the market every single day. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what I do here. What I do here correlates into the brokerage that I manage, right? It correlates because what I'm reading and talking about here gives me information to be able to help navigate that brokerage effectively, right? Now, if you're a broker out there and you're listening to me and you're like, I don't buy that, I don't, whatever, I challenge you, take a risk, support your agents better. And guess what? More agents will come. More agents will come. All right, how strong brokerages impact what matters most. A popular recruiting message in the industry is some version of, we stay out of your way. This is true. We don't get in your way. We won't step on your toes. You have autonomy, freedom to do whatever you want. Sounds appealing. It also ignores reality. Brokerages serve independent contractors who all think, operate, and prioritize differently. Without structure, autonomy turns into inconsistency, and inconsistency creates risk. Strong brokerages don't micromanage, but they do standardize where it matters. They do. You know, yesterday I spent all day putting together an entire 2-hour meeting of agenda items addressing a lot of the things here for the agents so they can go back and watch this video on. These are things that we standardize. These are things we have in place. You can have autonomy, but you can't have a brokerage and have no structure. It doesn't make any sense, right? We can't have a bunch of independent agents out there running around doing whatever they want when we have governing laws that we have to abide by. It doesn't work. There's no such thing as complete freedom, guys. That doesn't exist. It does not exist. Cloud models or not. You have to have standards or you're going to get into some trouble. All right. Strong brokerages don't micromanage, but they standardize where it matters. Contracts, advertising, compliance, transaction flow, and consumer protection. I prefer to think that freedom works best with guardrails. 100%. That's why we have laws in this country. Those guardrails keep our country in line. It keeps us working and functioning correctly. I've sat in more recruiting rooms than I can count. Most agents don't ask about systems or work or risk. They ask about splits, occasionally tools, sometimes culture. Very rarely do they ask what happens when a transaction gets hard. Ironically, that's often why they leave. Yep. When deals fall apart, when emotions rise, when compliance matters, agents don't exit brokerages over branding. They leave over money or failed systems. So true. All right. She wraps this up. A brokerage isn't a place you rent. It's a system you join. It shapes your risk tolerance, your habits, your professionalism, and your long-term sustainability. Often far more than your commission split ever will. The most strategic agents don't ask, what do I get? What do I get? They ask, what problems does this brokerage solve? And which ones does it quietly ignore? These are great questions. What do I get is not the right one. What do I get if I join you? It's not the right question. They ask, what problems does this brokerage solve? And which ones does it quietly ignore? That's good. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Maybe. Calm is rarely accidental in this business. If it feels that way from your seat, that's by design. The best brokerages are usually paddling like, I won't say the word, just beneath the surface. And that is true, guys. In my role, there is so much noise that I have to cut through on a daily basis. And this is not me asking for pity whatsoever. It's my job. I like doing it. But the reality is there is a lot of noise going on internally that we are adjusting and trying to navigate. We got agents saying one thing and doing different things. We got compliance we're trying to keep up with. We got law changes that's coming at us. We got consumers that are complaining about certain things. We got regulations coming against us and fines being levied. This is just a constant state of a brokerage. But how do we navigate that? Am I not accessible in all of that noise? Am I not accessible to my agents, right? Do I take the calls? Do I take the text? Do I help and serve them, right? That's what we strive to do. Leading by serving. That's what we strive to do. All right. So what would I say? Well, look, there's a little bit of a challenge here. And the challenge is twofold. One is going to be on brokerages. Brokerages out there, brokers listening, you need to listen to what I just talked about. Evaluate the way you run your company. If you want to grow a strong, lasting brokerage, these are the things you do. This is how you operate, guys. I mean, and I'm not just saying this for my opinion. This is somebody else's opinion as well. And you can do research on this. And this is not just, akin to real estate industry as a whole. It's every industry, how to run a business. This is what you do. If you're an agent, evaluate your brokerage based on what the opportunity cost is, not just your split. What kind of opportunity does that brokerage present to you, right? If your current firm isn't providing the tech or the leadership or the support or the risk management or the standards or anything to help you think like a business owner, listen, they are costing you more than you are saving. Regardless of splits, if they're not doing those things, you're leaving money on the table. I guarantee it. I've sat in on many, many recruiting appointments. And when the questions are always revolving what I get and what your splits are, I can almost guarantee you that agent is going to do one of two things. They're going to burn out, or they're constantly going to be switching brokerages. That's what's going to happen. And they might have a successful time. They might do well, but they will be burnt out by doing it because they're doing it all alone. They're doing it alone. A good brokerage is going to come beside you and stay current on all these type of things. So conduct a brokerage value audit. Go through the brokerage you're currently with and look at it. What do they do for you? Not what do you get? Don't have what do I get out of this brokerage? What benefits me? But look at the whole thing. What kind of opportunity does this brokerage provide for me? Do an audit of it. I would go in and interview your principal broker. Go in and talk to them. Talk about tech strategy and support and the standards that you have and engage them in conversation. You should be craving that accountability, right? It's only going to make you better. Don't run from accountability. Drive yourself to it. It's uncomfortable, yeah. You're not going to like it. They're going to say things you don't want to do. They're going to give you advice that you don't like. But trust me, they have experience. If you're in a part of a brokerage that is growing and thriving, go talk to your leadership. Talk to them, interview them, talk about these things, have these conversations. Switch it from what do I get to what's the opportunity here and what am I missing? Take the position of a student and say, teach me, guide me, keep me accountable, hold me to a high standard. I want to be the best. I want to represent my clients well. I don't want to get sued, right? What a great position to take. What a great position to take, right? All right. One last article here that we're going to get into, and then we're going to wrap up this live stream. Hope you've got some value out of this. This was all kind of more focused. The very beginning of this has all been focused on agents, brokerages, and just more specifically helping you build your business and thinking like a team leader and brokerages and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to end this week because, like I said, this is the last live stream for this week. I got to travel the rest of the week, but this is the last live stream. So I don't want to end this week without going briefly through the news and reporting a little bit on what is happening on the real estate, housing, and the economy just a little bit to go into the week. And then I'm going to wrap up with a few little action items. I'm going to give you some tasks to do this week, if you will. And then we'll call it a day. All right. So this next article here is by Fox Business. All right. It's talking about the housing market cools as price growth hits slowest pace since Great Recession recovery. Really, the headline say cool down, but here's really the data. The data says to me, there's some opportunity here, okay? And all of my live streams, I've kind of been talking about this, right? So I don't say cool down as far as marketing yourself, but I do say look for opportunity because it's here, right? I do understand price growth has slowed, and we'll get into that. It's slowed down to 0.9%. But here's the thing. It's time to find the deals that the hype chasers that are reading these articles that are missing, okay? So let's just go through this real quick, and we're going to wrap this up. Annual housing price growth slowed to just 0.9% in December with steep declines hitting Hawaii, Texas, and Florida markets. Okay. Oh, hold on one second here. There we go. All right. This is the housing market has cooled off this winter with the annual pace of home price growth easing to levels unseen since the nation was recovering from the Great Recession. And while some areas continue to see strong price growth, others have seen notable declines. All right, so we got a little bit of a weird market, but again, real estate is local, guys. It's just a local thing. We can look at the national data, but we got to hone in a little bit to get really what's going on. This is by Cotality, the data from Cotality, a data analytics and tech company in the real estate, mortgage, and insurance industries, showed that the annual housing price growth slowed to just 0.9% in December, which was one of the softest rates since the post-Great Recession recovery. Okay, so a little bit of data there happening. But let me just pause for a second. This is what happens in a shift. Things begin to slow down. You see more opportunity begin to take place, right? The market has to adjust to this. Prices need to come down to meet where the buyer's expectations are. I talked about this too. Buyers are being more strategic. They're not just rushing in and making offers because they don't feel the pressure to do so. So they're coming to the table with more negotiation ability than they have in a while. All right. So it says we are seeing a significant departure from the rapid surges of recent years. While the upward pressure on prices remains, the momentum has moderated enough to suggest that the market is finally becoming more navigable for prospective buyers, said Cotality chief economist Selma Help. Oh, and by the way, this article is by Eric Revel of Fox Business. Yeah, home prices have declined in several key areas across the South and West, particularly in areas that had previously seen rapid expansion, as in migration trends moderate and inventory levels increase. Okay, so we see this. The Lone Star State had a pair of localities in the top 10, with Victoria, Texas down 7.4% and Wichita Falls, Texas down 7.2% in sales, right? Napa, California had the steepest decline among West Coast localities, with prices falling 7.1%. So people are getting more poised to negotiate in these markets, right? The sellers are getting more creative. There's more incentives, more concessions, more buy downs, more creative entering into the market, right? They're offering to pay closing costs. It's not as competitive. There's not as many bidding wars when you start seeing this type of stuff happening. So as agents in these markets, you can see the states, California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida, and even Hawaii all have the highest decreases, right? All right. These states are considering eliminating property taxes for homeowners. 4 of the hottest markets were in the state of Indiana, led by national runner-up Terre Haute's gain of 11.4%. Other Hoosier state metros with notable price rises were Columbus and Muncie, with 10.2% gains each month. Okay, gains. Illinois has home to a pair of housing markets with a strong price growth, as prices in Decatur rose 10.5% and Peoria 8.9%. So there's a shift again, right? And this comes down to like some tax codes, some regulations and legislations and stuff passing in these states and these local cities and counties and everywhere that's causing this migration. Also, industries moving into other states to save on taxes as well. So you got a migration beginning to happen. The hottest housing market in the South was Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which saw prices rise 8.4% over the last year. It says, as we move through 2026, the market's trajectory will depend heavily on wage growth and how soon buyers regain the purchasing power needed to meet sellers' pricing thresholds. For now, Cotality data shows a housing landscape is still finding its footing. We're still in a shift, but it is ultimately stabilizing after an extended period of imbalance, Hep said. So we're still in a little bit of a shift here from buyer to seller. That's still absolutely being talked about, whatever. So that's going to continue out through 2026. I don't see us having crazy changes one way or the other. I think we're seeing more of a balancing market happening. Interest rates kind of holding where they are and that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be a good market. I think it's going to rebound. I think the confidence is going to be a little bit higher. The only knock to that is we are entering into midterms, and that tends to have an emotional effect on buyers and sellers. So we'll see how that pans out as we get closer to November. But I do think that we're in for a good year. I really do. Reading all these economists and going through these articles, I feel good about this. There's still a lot of adjusting to do, and it's going to be micro changes, but I think it's going to be more stabilizing. All right. So what's some action items I would say outside of this? Well, here's the thing, is I would go into your database and I would pull in some information. I would send out a market reality report. I would send out some kind of educational authority type information. You can take this live stream or whatever, and you can talk about what's happening in the market, how we're the sector where the seller inflation was through the roof and how now the buyers are gaining leverage, and maybe now's a good time to buy. And here's why. And you can lay out the reasons, right? There's not competing for offers anymore. You can come in and more likely be able to negotiate. You're going to be able to ask for concessions, maybe even buy downs from new construction. There are benefits to the buyer that might have been on the fence the past 2 years that you want to reach back out to in your database. So I'd encourage you to do that. Draft up an email, use some data, make some points, make your argument, and reach back out to them and see if they might be able to enter back into the buyer pool and buy a house, right? So that goes back into the next one too, is in the past 3 years, some of your buyers did not have the income threshold to be able to buy the home during the inflation years. So they were kind of priced out of the market. So now though, with this kind of coming back into line, I would go back and look at your previous buyer pool and see if there's anybody that was in that list that were priced out of the market in the past couple of years, and see if you can bring them back into it. Okay. That's the action items I would give to that. All right. To wrap up this show though, I want to give you guys just some tasks that I would encourage you to do. Okay. These are some action items that I would say, hey, if you're going to do 5 things the rest of this week, what would they be? And what would I encourage you to do to gain some leads and convert some properties and maybe build your business, right? So what I'm going to say is this, is I would go into your CRM, go into your database, and reach out to 5 people that you haven't spoken to in at least 6 months just to check in. No sales pitch or anything, just offering them and having a conversation with them and maybe even talking about the market. Go into your database this week, find 5 people that you haven't spoken to in the past 6 months, and just check in with them. Say, hey, just wanted to say hi. It's been a while. Hope all is well. Hope your family's doing good. We're coming out of the winter months. I know it's been rough where we've been. I mean, we've had ice, on the ground for about 2 weeks, it seems like. So checking in on everybody, making sure everybody's fine, everybody's good, and how life's going, and just making a touch, right? Inevitably, it will end up with real estate. I'm telling you, it just will. Then what I would do, and this is going to be a big one for some of you guys. Most of you guys push back against me about video all of the time, but I would record at a minimum a 60-second video explaining where we currently sit in the real estate market. Okay? Go in, find some data. You can go on to the National Association of Realtors website, go into the reports. You can find all kinds of data there by Dr. Lawrence Yun and his economic team. Pull some data from there. Draft a short little script. You can use even Chat GPT or AI, any of them models, and just say, hey, take this data and give me a short 60-second script to record a video from. Don't read it word for word. Make a bulleted list. Be natural. Make mistakes. Stutter. Don't do 1,000,001 takes. Just be natural. Talk about the market, and then I would post that. Share that on all of your social media stories and TikToks and everything else, and get that out there. Become an authority. Okay? If you have a team or you have agents that are working with you, I challenge you to check in with them. If you haven't done it in a while, do what I talked about earlier. Do a sit down with them. Talk about their struggles and what they're going through, and see where you can come along and help them, right? And just ask them simply, what is one thing I can do this week to make your job easier, right? What is the one thing I can do this week to make your job easier, right? Now, the next thing I would do, this is number 4, I would look at your local MLS data. Go in there and look at December 2025. And versus today. So look at 2025 and see what the sales were going on, what the median price was, average days on the market, what was going on, okay? What did that market look like? Most MLSs have a way to pull graphs and look at that data. You can even generate the report. You can include that in your video if you want. But I would encourage you to go through that and do a contrasting, right? We're in February now. You can contrast December to February, and you can see a growth pattern of where we're leading into spring. So it's a good time to do that. So this is another action item. Know your numbers. Be the agent who brings the data, not just opinions. Bring the data to the table and make a post about it. And then I would identify any stale listings that you have, okay? Any listings you have currently listed right now on Friday, I want you to make contact with those those sellers. Reach out to them, find 3 of them. Reach out to them, find them, and connect with them, right? And see, especially if you have not spoken to them in about 2 to 3 weeks, right? If you have not spoken to them in a while, be sure to go reach back out to them. Friday is your day to go out there and connect with them. So be sure to do that, right? All right, there you go. There's your action items. I hope you've enjoyed this live stream, guys. I enjoy doing this, but like I said, I will not be live again this week. This is the last day. I've got to travel the rest of the week to some offices. So I'll be away from the home office and the computer to be able to do this. But I will be coming back Monday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So put that on your calendar, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, where you're watching me now. I will be live. I'm talking about the news. Feel free to send me any kind of news articles, comments, or anything. You can DM me in whatever social media platform you're using now. And also just comment in the chat here of this live stream once it's recorded. You can drop that in there and give your opinions. I love feedback. All right, there we go. That is your real estate brief for today. If you found this helpful, please consider hitting the like button, following, subscribing, all those type of things, which tells the algorithm you're watching this on you would like to see more of this type of content. And please do consider joining this community by subscribing, because I want to build a good community of a bunch of relationship-focused agents that we come together and we talk through situations and we look at the news, we analyze this, and we help one another to be successful, to help us build businesses that last, not just build a sales business, but an actual business, right? It is relationship-focused first. That's it. I will see you next week, Monday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Take care and have an amazing day.